Let's jump into this first story. Greta Thunberg effigies burned in Delhi after tweets on farmers' protests. Celebrity interventions inflame sentiments in India as police investigate pro-farmers Toolkit. So basically what happened is a couple weeks ago, Greta Thunberg accidentally tweeted out what's called the Toolkit. It's basically just a manual explaining what to say, where to say it, how to do all this stuff. A lot of people find this to be particularly nefarious. They call it, well, they say it's similar to astroturfing. Do you guys know what astroturfing is?
I've heard of it.
Luke, you're familiar?
Sure. Yeah, I've heard of it.
What is
too.
it?
So basically you'll have these big organizations, special interests that want to get activists to do a thing. And so they'll hire a bunch of people to show up and wave signs. Sometimes it won't be as direct as saying, like, we want to pay an activist to do this. Like, hardcore astroturfing, the most nefarious, would be getting random people who don't care about the politics to wave a sign. But typically what it is, they'll put up an ad saying like, hey, do you care about climate change? Well, then come on down and protest and you'll get your food and travel paid for. And essentially those funds being provided to activists allows them the ability to be there. It's considered inorganic, right?
Yeah.
So when you have Greta Thunberg putting out this toolkit where it's basically telling people what to say or how to say it, how to protect yourself and things like that, a lot of people view that as nefarious. So now you have, well, Greta Thunberg leaked this. They say this from The Guardian. Thunberg became embroiled in allegations of an international criminal conspiracy against India after she tweeted a toolkit for people who wanted to show support for the farmers. So there's a big farmer protest going on right now. The document included campaigning tips, such as suggested hashtags and advice on how to sign petitions. Though not named in the police case that was filed, Thunberg's tweet was said to have brought the Delhi police's attention to the existence of the toolkit. Leaders in the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party said the toolkit was evidence of international plans for attacks against India. Now I'm just going to say this because I know a lot of people are like, whoa, Greta Thunberg is caught. She's astroturfing. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like if you say like, hey, here's the message we're using, here's the hashtags we're using, and you're telling someone how to get active, I don't think that's that big of a deal. But I do think it's interesting the way Delhi is handling it. They're basically saying international, foreign celebrities interfering in our politics ain't going to have none of that. So Greta Thunberg, they're just burning images of her in effigy. But here's actually the big news. Not this one. It's the next one. Indian activist arrested for creating protest toolkit shared by Greta Thunberg. This is a huge screw up on Greta's part. Look, how old is she now? Greta Thunberg?
She's
18.
Yeah.
I don't want to drag her too heavily because she's inexperienced and naive. But this was such a serious failure of operational security. This woman is facing, I think she's facing like life in prison.
Jeez.
Let's check out the story. They say Disha Ravi, 22, could face up to life in prison following her arrest Sunday in connection to the online document, which calls for organized support for India's deadly farmers' protests. Ravi, a leader of the Indian arm of Thunberg's Fridays for Future protest movement, is being investigated for possible sedition, a charge that carries a penalty of life imprisonment, a police source told Reuters. Well, look, I just heard a lot from Democrats about the dangers of insurrection and sedition. And, they say these people should be locked up. So what's the difference? What's the difference in this story?
It sounds like a precedent was set over here in the U.S. and now other countries are going to take that and make it totalitarian. That's dangerous.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Often when we see this happen in the U.S., something happen in the U.S., other countries go, okay, then we can do it too, right? And so that's actually criticism that was levied at Donald Trump. They were saying that when he was going after the press, all of a sudden a bunch of other world leaders started going after the press too. I think that's kind of silly. Criticize people if they do something wrong. Trump expressing his opinions on the media, whatever. People have opinions on the media. In other countries like Turkey where they're arresting journalists.
Erdogan was the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, Erdogan.
Erdogan.
That's Turkey arrests more journalists than anybody else. So for those that aren't familiar with what's going on in India, I just did a quick run through earlier. It's fairly complicated. I don't know too much, but it's basically a bunch of farmers have this system where they have like guaranteed pricing from the government on the crops they grow. So it sustains them. And there's new laws that are coming in that'll basically take that away. And so they're protesting it. And this makes a lot of sense as to why the left is getting involved in saying support the farmers, because the farmers want a guaranteed minimum government intervention over the work they're doing. And the new laws would be more, I guess, capitalist. According to CNN, they'd be allowed to sell whatever they grow to whoever wants it. Whereas right now, the government guarantees a set minimum price and only certain people are allowed to bid on these crops. I guess you can call it deregulation, is resulting in these massive, deadly protests. Greta Thunberg gets involved. For what reason? I don't really know. Now you've got some woman who's facing life in prison.
Well, I don't think anyone should ever be arrested for posting anything online, especially when it comes to activist toolkits. But when you look at the larger kind of international efforts, especially by massively funded PR campaigns, there's a lot of ties between intelligence agencies and also the supposed popular uprisings that usually work in the benefit of American geopolitics, like we saw in Ukraine, Syria, and Libya, that were very organized, that did have talking points, hashtags, and also the coordination of the media that pushed for a certain agenda and was able to get it because of these larger disinformation efforts. And if you study things like the economic hitman, you see these efforts.
Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yeah. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Great book. Definitely recommend you read it. I read it in high school. It changed my vision of the world. When you look at the kind of ways that they push for unrest in order to get their way, it really makes you think, what's really going on here? And we have seen a lot of pressure on India by individuals like Bill Gates that are criticizing India. Also, just recently, their manufacturing plants. So, there is something to wonder here about what's happening on the global scale, whether it's a conspiracy or not. We do not know, but I still think it's an overreaction for India to arrest a person for sharing this, and it's only going to hurt them in the long run. I was in India before. I got some wild stories there. I actually landed in India when they did a currency reset, and the whole country went in panic.
What a mess.
Yes, there was riots. There was people dying. There was massive civil unrest.
Isn't that crazy that some guy can be like, oh, that currency we have, it's now a different currency, and everyone just believes it.
Yeah, everything in India is pretty much cash, except for some places in Delhi. And when I was in Delhi, it was fine. I went to Goa. Everything's in cash, which was absolutely absurd during a currency reset where people were sleeping outside of ATMs. There was tourists. It was also weird to see ATMs segregated for local Indians and tourists, and the tourists were literally sleeping outside. The Indians' lines were even way longer because people didn't have any money, didn't have any cash.
Because they reset the currency and it was something different.
They got rid of a large swap of currency because the government wanted all the accounting. Because a lot of people, because it's such a cash-driven country, a lot of people have their money figuratively underneath the mattress. The government was like, you're not paying taxes on that, so we're just going to make all of these bills illegal. You're going to have to give them to us so we could see exactly how much you have, so we could get you the accurate amount of money that you owe the government. Crazy time during the currency reset. And then this
crazy story, but we got to keep it on.
I know, but one thing that kind of reverted to in India that was very interesting was people literally doing an honor system. You go to the store, you just tell them your name, you just take down your name. You would have to come back later, pay cash.
Wow.
But a lot of civil unrest happens in India. The country geopolitically is at a very important place, especially countering China. So there's a lot of interest in India.
Destabilizing India. Right now with China, China is basically on the border of India, and they're fighting, right?
Well, they're having these weird clashes without any weapons.
Like clubs.
But they're using archaic weapons like clubs and sticks and nails and barbed wire on baseball bats, literally, of what they're using, fighting each other, because they have this weird peace treaty where they can't use firearms against each other and they can't use live ammunition against each other, but they could beat the crap out of each other, which they do. But I've heard recently, within the last few days, they actually settled previous conflicts that were arising just 2 weeks ago, and they're at a stalemate now. So they're at a position where there's more peace now than there was just 2 weeks ago.
Here's the crazy thing about the toolkit that gets released. You have to ask yourself, who makes these things? Who spends the time to develop an activist guide for protesting? And you mentioned this, Luke. You've got intelligence agencies. You think about what's going on with China and India and the conflict on the border. Plus, I mean, you have Pakistan, like Kashmir, all that stuff. So there's good reason for any adversary of India or us to create that conflict. So when you have international interests spreading information that can destabilize a country, what did the United States say about it? When we had, a handful of Facebook pages with almost no followers created by Russia.
Yeah.
They went for years claiming Russia was trying to take over the country and destabilize everything, and they were freaking out. In fact, they're still freaking out. They're foaming at the mouth like, blah, 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 blah. over some Facebook pages. Now, what would happen if Russia was disseminating pamphlets, booklets, toolkits, telling people how to bypass arrest, how to win in the legal system, how to protest, how to hashtag, how to spread the ideology and win? They would have gone even crazier. If you think it was nuts now with Russiagate, imagine if Russia actually put together a toolkit telling people how to do these things. It didn't get that bad, and they still went insane. And that's what's happening in India, and Greta Thunberg is facilitating it, and she's not Indian. No. Look, if you are an American, if you are an Indian, and you put together an activist guide because you want to help people and you believe in your cause, well, that's cool.
Yeah, AOC did that.
If you're a foreign actor of high profile with tons of money and massive backing from special interests, and then you are pushing out ideological and tactical information that can exacerbate riots and protests, well, now you got a problem. You got a serious problem. Because what happens if India actually becomes destabilized? I wonder if, look, I kind of feel bad for Greta Thunberg because she's just a kid. The things she's called for in terms of abandoning fossil fuels, outright banning fossil fuels in the next year or whatever. Not even a year. She's like, we want it now. They just kill millions of people. Look at what's happening in Texas with these windmills freezing and the gas lines freezing. We need to make sure we can get the electricity running. Already, we can see what happens when you do not have the sufficient electrical, equipment, weathering, etc. I know a lot of people are blaming the wind turbines for freezing, but everything basically froze. Nobody thought this was going to happen.
15 states are having power outages. There's 4.4 million people that went without power in Texas. The National Guard had to be deployed.
Right.
And there's a huge argument now happening, whether it's the kind of free energy or whether it's the fuels that are, that
Right. But just the basic point with Greta Thunberg I'm trying to make is she doesn't understand the things she's advocating for are going to kill millions. From getting rid of the fossil fuels, fine. But if riots, protests, and mass protests, massive unrest sweeps India because the people of India are challenging their legal system. Oh, okay then. We want to make sure people stay safe. We don't want a collapse that results in mass death. We want reform. We want people to, do the right thing, and we don't want fighting in the streets. Greta Thunberg doesn't understand what destabilization or collapse really means. And I guess she would care if she knew, but I don't think she knows. I don't think she realizes what it means for someone of her profile to be having these conversations. Apparently there were like some leaked messages as well, where she's saying like, these hate campaigns, they happen. It's like, dude, the hate campaigns are happening because you're interfering in a foreign country's politics and you have massive clout that's getting tons of attention and spreading this artificial, external ideology inside the country. It's no surprise people are protesting her. They're calling it an international criminal conspiracy, man.
Yeah. A lot of eyes are on India, and I think we're going to be hearing about India a lot more, especially in the near future, especially with their very strategic, very important position in the world, because as China is going to be expanding their influence, they're going to also be propping up Pakistan. These are all nuclear powers. And when you look at India, they have a vast emerging middle class that speaks English, that is ready to help, even by some estimates, even by some experts, be the next hegemonic world power, even over China, because they are in a better position than China on the world map comparatively as well. So India is going to be a very key, crucial place to sway your influence in, especially in the not so distant future. And it's not a surprise that this is happening to me, in my opinion.
I got mixed feelings about what this is all about, this farmer protest. Now, what I'm trying to figure it out too, so maybe we can clarify. It sounds like what they're doing is, right now, if a big multi-corporate farming industry in India wanted to sell bare bottom prices and outmatch all the local farmers, they could sell their corn for $3, and the government would have to step in. Tim, is this? Can you clarify this?
I don't know a whole lot about it.
Okay, so what they want to, the government would subsidize it.
It's basically right now government regulated sales versus absolute free market.
So
that's
like
the general idea.
If Monsanto wanted to sell $3 corn and the farmer was like, I can't afford to sell my corn for $3, they're putting me out of business. Okay, the government will say, okay, you can sell your corn for $10. We'll subsidize 7 of it, and then it'll go for $3 to the market.
No,
maybe that sounds like maybe what is going on right now, but they want to change it so that government gets out of the way and corporates can sell whatever. But the danger is that
gist of what we
Monsanto could undercut these local farmers.
We don't know that.
This is what it sounds like they're protesting.
Sure. We don't know that. We don't know that.
We don't know that.
We don't know exactly the limits of this law. It's a foreign country, and I can't tell you. I can only tell you that CNN said right now the current system is a government minimum guarantee for crops versus a sell to anyone at any price model.
Right. With the sell to anyone model could be dangerous because if you have Monsanto over there and they want to sell $3 corn and the local farmers can't afford it, it'll bankrupt local farmers. So that's why government is in there to help subsidize local farmers. Yeah. And Thunberg's trying to.
It's never this simple, and we just don't know.
And ultimately, maybe it doesn't even matter what it is. It's just that there's foreign nationals influence. But I mean, that's the name of the game right now. The globe is connected. You know, it's not even a national game anymore.
It's the same thing with China, bro. It's not that America wants cheaper products made in China. They don't. The American people want jobs. They want to be able to work. They want to feel fulfilled. I find it hilarious that we have so many Gen Z memes where it's like there was one where it's from The Incredibles where, you know, have you guys seen The Incredibles? Mm-hmm. The family of superheroes.
Yeah.
So basically, like, superheroes are outlawed, and then like this Mr. Incredible is now an insurance, adjuster or whatever. And it said like there's like a meme. It's like me working in an office, getting paid for for an unfulfilling existence or something. And I'm like, yeah, people want meaningful jobs. They want to make things to be proud of. But all of those are being shipped away. So these jobs are going to China. Why? Because the billionaires and the millionaires in this country. That's why. Now, Bernie Sanders, mock him essentially because he's no longer fighting against the millionaires and the billionaires. But the same thing with, you mentioned these companies, the international ties. Regular people don't want this stuff. They just want to be with their families. They want to make enough. They want to get by. They want to survive. They don't want a boot on their neck from the government, and they don't want their jobs being sent overseas. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.